Hey, what's up? Sam here, and welcome to the first episode of From the Trenches. Today's topic is we're going to be talking about how to build a network and increase your income while you're still working a 9 to 5. For those of you who have been following the channel or have seen some of my other content in the past, there's a little bit of a new format. So let me know down in the comments for sure if you love it, if you hate it, how I can make it better. And I'd be happy to kind of adjust and adapt it for whatever is most helpful for you guys. So let's go ahead and dive in here. What I'm planning to do for these From the Trenches episodes is just like a super real, unfiltered kind of display, I guess, or like a processing of my thoughts, things that I'm learning, things that I'm working on, building things in public so you guys can kind of see like behind the scenes how it actually works to, build towards your goals and dreams. Just because I've found like from working with my mentors and like the things that have been the most helpful for me have also kind of been like over the shoulder, just like very real and raw, kind of open book format. So I hope this is valuable. I hope you guys like it. If you do, like I said, let me know. If not, let me know. If it sucks, that's fine too. I'm figuring it out as we go along the way here, and I'm going to adapt it as, as I get feedback, what you guys like. So like I said, today's topic, every time we go through this, basically we're going to hit on any updates or like anything that I'm building in public, social media growth or client growth. Like we might share some wins, stories like that. And then we're going to dive into the topic, and I'm just going to kind of like break down exactly how I would go about it or some training, some insights to help on that. And then what I also want to do is answer questions. So if you guys have questions on, you're stuck in a position that you want to get out of, or you're trying to make more money, or you have a certain problem or situation that you are like struggling with, just drop it in the comments on this video or any of my other videos, and I will go through the channel and like just answer questions live. So let's dive in, guys. If you're, like I said, if you're new to like my content, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Sam. My background is basically I went from 6 jobs that I hated, trying to figure out my path, trying to figure out how to get to where I wanted to go. Finally found something that worked for me and got into high ticket sales, making $30K a month. Was able to travel the world. Eventually ended up starting my own company, scaled that to $1 million a year, and really just achieved a lot of freedom that I never knew was possible. And now what I do is I basically mentor people to build their own freedom through this YouTube channel, and I work with a few hand-selected clients as well. So that's kind of what got me to where I am now. And in terms of updates, again, I'm not sure if you're brand new, you probably have no idea. If you're someone who's been around a while, some of the changes that I've made recently and some of the things that I'm working on is I'm actually working on obviously making content. I obviously have coached people for a long time, and like I know how to help people. I've gotten a ton of people results, but I don't really know how to make content. I'm really not that great at making content. And over the last couple of months, I had felt called to let go of like some of the team members that I gotten or that I've had. I've had a big team in the past when we were doing like consistently about $1 million a year. It was just feeling called to focus more on content, let go of the team, and work with clients more directly. So I'm working with a more, smaller, more tight knit client group, and I'm also focusing on figuring out how to make content, which I don't really know how to do. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I have an assistant as well that helps. But that's basically updates wise what I'm working on now, and you guys are seeing it in real time, like figuring out how to make content. But what I'm learning is with content, there's like an added element of fear, just like when you go to, apply for a position or, do a sales outreach or whatever. There's an element of fear because you're like putting yourself out there for rejection, or if, people hate it or whatever. But it's the same fundamentals of communication. And that's what I feel like I've learned and appreciated, or start to appreciate. I'm learning to appreciate about making content is just like the fundamentals of communication are the same everywhere, and you need to. That's one of the reasons why it's so key to learn the fundamentals, and you can do that really well through selling high ticket. Is learning what works and how to communicate with people effectively, and then you can take that and put that into content, copywriting. You can use that to prompt AI. Like there's just a million different things that kind of start with that. So that's just kind of updates where I'm at right now, what I'm working on. And I'm going to skip we're not going to do any social media or client growth today, because I want to dive right into today's topic and make sure that we have time. We might adjust this flow in this format as I go through it. So I want to talk about how to build a network and raise your income while you're still working a 9 to 5. Because I know for a lot of you guys who are out there, maybe in a similar spot to I was several years ago, either bouncing from job to job, trying to figure out your thing, or just stuck in one job long term that you are struggling with, or it's like you're dissatisfied with like the work itself or like the income potential. Because I was there, and like that was super frustrating for me, driving to work every day, just feeling like hopeless and lost and like unsure of, who to trust, where to go, how to go about that. So I want to break down for you, and this is kind of what we'll do live on these episodes is, just kind of talk through some real that hopefully will be helpful. So this is what I would think through, and this is what I would do if I was in this situation, still working 9 to 5, trying to build your network and raise your income while you're still working 9 to 5. So the first thing that you want to think about in this situation is you have to start with your end goal. A lot of times, there's a quote. I'll just start with this. There's a quote that says, "The quality of your questions determines the quality of your life, or the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions that you ask." And there's another quote that says, "You're not unmotivated, you're just unclear." And this is one of the biggest things that people go wrong with is they're not happy with what they have, so they're just like running away from it, or they're just running like somewhere, but they don't really know where they're going. So the first thing I would say is create clarity plus decide. You don't have to know exactly where you're trying to go, but you have to have at least a general direction of what you're trying to get to, right? Because how do you raise your income? How do you network? Well, you can't really do that unless you know where you're going. You don't know where to network. You don't know who to talk to. You don't know how to talk to people. You don't know what to say to people. Like, unless you know where you're going, you really are kind of screwed from the get-go. And this is really where people get caught up, is like figuring out what direction they're trying to go. Because one of the things that I guess has helped me, I think this was Steve Jobs was talking about it, but he was talking about how he's like, you can never connect the dots moving forward. You can only connect them looking back. And if you like map someone's journey, like even, when I just mapped out my journey and like the different steps that I've gone through, if you try to like map out exactly like your pinpoints to your end destination, you'll never get there. And what Steve Jobs was talking about is you can only map the points in reverse. So basically what that means is like you want to have like think of it as like a field of vision. If you've seen like on a video game character or whatever, it's like you can only see forward in this direction, and you want to kind of put a pin on the board that's directionally correct. So it's not a specific thing like, oh, I need to do this to get me to this, to get me to this, to get me to that, so that I can have financial freedom, be worth 10 million or 100 million or whatever, have passive income, whatever your end goal is. You don't know all of those steps to that. So what you got to do is you got to find something that's directionally correct in the right direction that leads to your end goal, right? But you still have to start to think through, what is the end goal that you want? Like for me, when I was first starting out, when I had a job and I was doing all these different jobs that I hated, I knew that I eventually one day I wanted to start my own business. So that was kind of like an end goal. Okay, like I don't really know what to do. I don't really have skills. I don't have connections. I don't have money. But like I know that someday I want to start a business. And then I also knew that I wanted to make a lot of money. I knew that I wanted to be financially free. But it's like, okay, what does that mean? Also, like that's super vague and broad. So I just knew that I wanted to have enough money to to not have to worry about stuff. But then basically what happens is, okay, you put those points on the board. What is like the big idea? What do you want? You just ask yourself the question, what do I want? Right? And you might need to sit with that for a little bit. You might need to journal it out, whatever. but like start to put those points on the board. So, okay, if that's the goal, okay, I know I want to have a business. I know I want to have financial freedom, or maybe you want to be in real estate, or maybe you want to just do something that you can travel, right? Like, oh, I just want to be able to travel. I want to be able to have my ideal lifestyle. Cool. All those things are great and fine, but like you have to start with that. Most people go wrong because they start with like what jobs are out there, what businesses are out there, or they start with what experience do I have? Like, oh, I'm a plumber, I'm a waitress, I'm a Uber driver, whatever. But it leads you to the wrong thing. What you want to do is you want to start with the desired lifestyle, the desired goal that you have, and then build your career, build your business around that versus trying to build your lifestyle around whatever business or career you think you're qualified for, right? So that's how you connect the dots forward is one, you're putting things on the board directionally correct, because then that opens you up to have freedom of like, hey, I don't have to make that perfect next step. Like even if you get the wrong job in the general right direction or the wrong next stepping stone, by pursuing that, by moving forward towards that thing, you're going to be closer to your end goal, at least to some extent, right? Because you have that directional correctness. But what that does is it frees you up from worrying about and stressing about making the wrong decision. Because it's like, hey, I have these 10 different things. What if I pick the wrong one or whatever? What if I fail? But the reality of the matter is, if you're taking that step forward towards the directionally correct endpoint that you have, then you're going to be closer to that thing, right? Because you're either going to have messed up a whole bunch and built skills and learned and whatever, or you're going to have to, or maybe it's going to work and then that'll lead you to the next thing. Either way, though, it's moving you forwards, moving you towards your goal. What the opposite of that is, the worst case scenario is you're stuck looking at that screen per se of, okay, these are the 50 different choices, and then you're stuck in this analysis paralysis of trying not to make the wrong decision, or afraid that you're going to do it and fail or whatever. So anyway, I hope that helps. I hope that provides a little bit more clarity of like, hey, what is that starting point? Where am I actually going? Because you have to decide. You have to actually like cut stuff off. By clarifying and cutting stuff off, you're putting a stake in the ground. You're saying, okay, this is what I want. And by doing so, you're like removing everything else out of the equation, because like, this is what's most important. This is where I'm trying to go. And then the next thing I would do once I have that clarity of where I'm trying to go. Next thing I would do is just look for people who have said thing. So whatever that thing is that you're trying to get to, right? If it's financial freedom, if it's, a certain industry that you want to get into, if it's a certain lifestyle, look for people that are currently doing the thing that you're trying to do and start moving towards them, having conversations with them, looking for them. People think that like it's impossible to do what they're trying to do, or like, but the reality is there's so many people that have already done it, and there's way more people that have already done it than you think. And if you literally, like, if you know what you're looking for, and then you just start looking around, people will pop up and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I never knew this person was doing that thing. Or I never knew so-and-so was, a real estate investor. I never knew so-and-so was a digital nomad or whatever. Once you clarified the thing that you're looking for and where you're trying to go, then just start looking for people who have achieved that result. And then you want to get in the same, when it comes to building a network, you just want to think through, okay, if you're not sure where to look, okay, where do I look for these people that are doing the thing? And okay, long term, I know I want to be in real estate. Long term, I know I want to have a business. Then you just have to ask yourself, okay, where someone who has what I want to have, right? They have their own business. Where would that person go? What would that person do? What groups would they hang out in? What Instagram pages would they follow? What events would they attend to? And then you just go and you follow those same pages. You reach out to people that follow that page. You go to events, you talk to people, you network, right? Maybe it's a training on like how to do marketing, whatever. All you got to do is like connect that where you're going, and then start to look for people that are in that vein and ask yourself, okay, where would those people hang out? And then go and like just make friends, right? Talk to people, learn. And where a lot of people get caught up in this is like overthinking, who am I to go and try to connect these people or whatever. But like, don't stress it. It's like there's a million people out there. So even if you look like an idiot or mess it up with 50 of them, it's like there's another 500,000. So don't stress it. Specifically while you're still working a job, like this is the best time to do it, right? Because you don't have the stress and the pressure of, providing for yourself or whatever if you have a steady income, right? As soon as you start a business or you go into high ticket sales or whatever, like then the pressure's on. But like now is the perfect time to like create that clarity, carve out that time, get up early before work or, do it after work. Block out your calendar with an appointment for yourself of like, hey, from this time to this time, I'm sitting down and I'm getting clarity on what I want, right? Ask that question. What do I want? Put that North Star, that stake in the ground and start to work towards that. And then as you're going forward, you're starting to make these connections, network with people, build relationships. And you have to also think of this as the long-term play. This is not a, this will lead to some immediate opportunities. Like I've had people that have gone out and done a similar process like this and already, gotten job offers or gotten opportunities or like started making a bunch of money like right away. But also you want to think about these connections and these relationships that you're building as like a long-term asset, right? It's free to build assets like this and it can return to you for years to come, but you have to be thinking about, what's in it for the other person. How can I add value? How can I be interested in other people? And when you're doing that in the right avenues and the right places with the right clarity, then everything can level up. And then number 3 is look for people who are doing said thing and then just ask everyone, who do you know for X? So as you start to get clarity of, okay, like here's my end goal. This is where I'm trying to go, directionally correct. You're looking for people who are doing that thing, right? It's probably in business or it's probably in a certain field. Just look for people who are successful in that thing and then start having conversations with them. Be genuinely curious and interested in what they're doing and trying to, help out or add value to what they're doing, or just, or just be like, hey, just being super real with you. Like I'm getting started in my career. This wouldn't be the first thing that you're saying. You would try to connect and like be curious and interested in them first. That's like the number one rule of thumb. But then you want to ask, as you're building these genuine connections and like just being real with people, a genuine human exchange is valuable in and of itself if you're like actually nice to people. There's a great book on this called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So definitely get that if you like haven't built the sales and communication or like networking skills. That'll be huge. But then as you're in these conversations, you're having, these interactions with people, just start to ask them like, okay, here's where I'm trying to go. This is my big picture goal. What would you recommend as, the best positions or the best opportunities to get me closer to that end goal? If you have no idea what they are. If you do know what they are, like for me, when I knew I wanted to get into business, I was like, hey, I know I need to get into business and like I need a job that can make money to like start a business, and I want to learn about business to better my skills and like build experience. Basically, I wanted to build experience, confidence, and money so that I could do business, right? And invest in real estate and all the other things that I wanted to do. And I knew that like, okay, here's certain jobs that I could do in the meantime to make more money and to prepare me for business. And I knew one of those things was sales, right? Selling high ticket services. So that's what, for me, like I know, okay, if I get a good sales opportunity and I get to 100K a year, 200K a year plus, then all I have to do is do that for a few years, stack up the cash that I need to start the business, and then I'll be good to go. So for me, it was just kind of asking, who do you know that does, high ticket sales, right? But for you, if you don't know, having these conversations with successful people in that space and just being like, hey, this is my end goal. Like, what's the next best opportunity that I could do for someone in my position, to to put myself closer to that. Positions, opportunities that I could start doing now, right? And ask those questions. You'd be amazed what opens up and what comes out of that, because people want to help. And if they see that like you're hungry, you're ambitious, you're actually out there hustling and grinding, the successful people want to give back, right? They're successful for a reason, and they know what it was like on the come up or the grind, or like when they were first getting started. So if you treat them with respect and genuinely, have a good human interaction, they will a lot of times be willing to help. And if not, like, just go to the next person, because the next person very well likely will be. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. This was, like I said, off the cuff, and for these From the Trenches episodes, I'm just still figuring it out. Hope this is helpful. Hope this is valuable. If you have any questions, drop it in the comments below, and I'll try to hit it on the next one. And yeah, till next time, keep crushing it.